Hi everybody, it's Christopher Neiman. What do I have for you today? I have a vintage Brother PC8500D combo sewing and embroidery machine. This machine was previously owned by some grandma who hardly used it, and her grandson or granddaughter got it and they sold it, and it was in pristine condition. I'm going to walk you through this machine and show you a little bit about it. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Alright, let's flip the switch on. Takes us to a welcoming screen. This is what they call the Disney version, and it has built-in Disney designs, and because it's a Disney machine, you can use Disney cards. If you have the old cards, like the Winnie the Pooh here, we had Mickey. So all these embroidery cards that you can find through eBay and all these other places that are Disney will only work on a Disney dedicated machine, and this happens to be one of them. Let's touch the screen. Okay, so I disassembled, well, not disassembled, I moved the embroidery arm attachment away from the machine, and that's another thing you want to do whenever you use this machine. Before you disengage the embroidery unit, shut the machine off. Before you want to connect the embroidery unit, shut the machine off. That's something you have to do. Some of the modern machines, I don't think you have to anymore. But here's a screen, and this screen here is your sewing screen, and it does quite a few different stitches. You turn the page here, and it has a good amount of button hole stitches. A lot of utility stitches. So, and it sews sideways. It sews on an angle. This really got a lot going on for this 24-year-old machine. The technology at this time was pretty advanced, and this was their midline machine. Their top-of-the-line machine they came out with was the Brother ULT, and they had this machine, which was the midline, and then the lower midline was like the PC8500. So, and like I mentioned in my previous video, these sewing machine companies kept coming out with new models every 2 to 4 years. So the industry right now is saturated with used sewing and embroidery computerized machines. So it's a buyer's market. People who are selling these machines are finding out they cannot get top dollar for them right now because there's too much competition out there. And this is great for the newbies who are looking to invest in a embroidery or a computerized sewing machine but don't want to spend a lot of money because they don't have a lot of money. So we have to thank those grandmas out there who own these machines that barely use them. Now, I can say that this was owned by a grandma because the person I bought it from was the grandchild, and the grandchild said this was my grandmother's, and it just sat there for a long time, and she passed away, and now we're selling it, and this was in pristine condition. Pristine condition. Now, a lot of you asked me before, where do you get machines like this? And I answered you before, but I'll answer you again. You check Marketplace, you check your local sales like estate sales, garage sales. You go and you join sewing groups and also visit your local sewing machine dealers. Sometimes these dealers have more than they can handle of used machines, and they're willing to sell them at a very, very good price. And if you buy from a dealer, it's already been serviced. So incorporate the price of the service into the price of the used machine, and they usually give you a 30 or 60-day warranty also. So remember that, because even though this was in pristine condition, I did take it in to have it serviced. So that was like $120 to have it serviced. What did I pay for this machine? Let me just tell you, if you have a family, a husband and wife and 2 children, and you went out for a steak dinner, that's what I paid for this machine. I'm not kidding you. If you went to Outback, you went to Longhorn, you had a steak dinner with your 2 kids, that is exactly what I paid for this machine. Unbelievable. There's no way to check the stitch count on this machine. Some machines you can check the stitch count. I even called my dealer and said, how do you check the stitch count? And he said he couldn't figure that one on this one. Now, I do know that if you shut the machine off and you press a couple buttons and turn it on, it'll give you a screen with all these numbers. And I went through every number, but the stitch count never appeared. So it doesn't matter. But my service guy did tell me, he says, that machine was like super, super clean. It was like never used. I said, right? And I told him, I said, you know, I moderate a few sewing groups, and all these people join these groups, but they don't seem to be sewing. They're not posting pictures, nothing. I said, you've got a handful of them that do, that are very passionate, but the rest of them, it's like, I think the machines they bought were revenge purchases, because maybe they caught their husbands cheating with another woman, so this was a revenge purchase. Who knows? That's the joke in the industry. That was told to me by ladies in the industry when I got into sewing. They said, yeah, most of these women really don't sew. They're just called revenge purchases. and I can't confirm that. I can only tell you what was told to me, so don't shoot the messenger. All right. So then we go to, there's another page here. Let's do the next page. And then you have, looks like a hand-picked quilting stitch. Now I know with that stitch you use invisible thread and you turn the tension up and you'll get you use invisible thread, I think, in the bobbin, or in the top or the bobbin. I think it's the top, one or the other. I have to experiment with that. But either the top of the bobbin you put invisible thread and you set your tension high, and it'll bring up the bobbin thread, and it looks like a hand-picked quilting stitch. Pretty cool. That's for you quilters who want that hand stitch look. Let's see if there's another page here. It takes you back to the beginning. So then, if I go back to, let's see, how do we go back to home? How do I go back to home on this? Okay, over here on the right, you can't see because it's dark and I almost missed it. Let me try to get some light on here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So on the right side, this is utility stitches. These are your decorative and alphabet stitches. This would be your built-in stitches. And what is this? Let's see what this is. Oh, this is your embroidery. So let's just go with the decorative stitches first. Show you that. All right, let me go here. Okay, so I clicked on the decorative stitches and it brought me to 9 different files of decorative stitches and lettering, the larger lettering. Here you've got decorative, lots of decorative stitches. Now the thing with these decorative stitches also is, if you look here, it's an RS and an LS. R stands for repeat, S stands for single, L stands for large, S stands for small. So all these stitches come in large and small. Now, these stitches do sew slower. On my Janome model machines, when I'm doing decorative stitches, they sew fast. Whereas in the Brother machines, when you get to the decorative stitches, they sew slow. It could be a little bit irritating for you, but if you just relax and just let it flow, you'll get the results you're looking for. And it sews really nice. This machine sews beautiful. Look at all the pages of decorative stitches. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And these stitches today are still on the new top-of-the-line machines today. They just keep repeating. They kept repeating these stitches in every top-of-the-line machine and every midline machine. There we go. Now let's go back to the menu. Let's look at this one and pages through that. Now people are going to ask me, what's the difference between the 8200, the 8400, and the 8500? Well, from what I understand is, like my 8500D, which is Disney, it comes with a knee lifter, so you can use a knee lifter when you're sewing. This is a knee lifter. You put it on the side of the machine, and when you're sewing, you can sew hands-free. Just use your knee to lift the presser foot up and down. Love that. That's an industrial sewing attachment. In other words, they use this all the time with industrial sewing machines. Because if you watch the factories, when they sew in the factories, they never use pins. They use their hands to hold the fabric like pins, and they use the knee lifter to lift the fabric, the presser foot up and down. So once you get used to using a knee lifter when you sew, you can't go back to being normal. You know, you could tell an amateur sewer because they put a ton of pins in and they don't know how to sew. they sew with their fingers flat and they go like this when they sew. They're showing off their diamond ring and their pretty nails. It's not how you sew professionally. That's not the professional way to sew. All right, so here we go. Professional way to sew is you're holding that fabric, and yeah, if you were taught professionally, you know how to sew and hold the fabric properly. If you were taught by another home sewer, you're going to use a ton of pins and you're not going to be holding the fabric properly. All right, so let me keep going here, and there's more there. Look at that. All right, let's go to that decorative stitch category again, and we have some satin stitches here. And the cool thing about these satin stitches is you can elongate them. So if I choose a satin stitch, I can elongate it 1, 2. The only thing is on these older machines, when you choose the stitch, back this up a little more. When you choose the stitch, the only thing this machine did not do back then, I'm trying to get the camera in the hole for you guys, sorry. The only thing it did not change is they didn't have the technology out yet, but on the newer models that came out after this one, when you change the elongation, this actually grows so you can see what the actual stitch length is. They didn't do that on these. And again, on this one, you have repeat or single, so you can keep repeating or single. And then you have your stitch length and your stitch width down here. You have your tension override. Yeah, pretty cool, right? There's a lot you could do with these. You have My Custom Stitch, which you can design your own stitch. And we're not going to go into that. You got to read the book on that. There's a couple of videos online you can watch for that. Also, this machine takes cards. You have a transfer card that there's a Ped Basic box, it's called. I'll flash a picture here on the screen for you to see it. You have to plug that box into your computer and you have to download the software. If you don't have the CD, you can enter Ped PED Basic software on Google, and it'll take you to the link to Brother, and where you can download the latest version, which is 1.07. I'm thinking off the top of my head it is. Now, if you have a modern computer and your computer will not allow you to accept the download, you have to disengage the firewall. And you just need to go and research and figure out how to do that, because I had to do the same thing. I had to go to Google and ask how to temporarily disengage firewall to download software. And then they'll show you and tell you how to do it, and you got to do that. And then once you download this, then you set your firewall settings back again. But the older computers below, I think, Windows 10, like 8 and that, they'll accept it no problem. Okay, just so you know. All right, now then we have, what is this, card? This card cannot be used. Now, this card, I have to read on that, but maybe there were decorative stitches that you saved from here to the card. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out. You have cross stitches also. You have a bunch of cross stitches there. Now, I'm going to shut the machine off. I'm going to connect the embroidery unit, turn the machine back on, touch the screen, and the embroidery unit. And then you have built-in designs on this machine. These are built-in embroidery designs, and it will. If your machine came with the brochures and stuff, it'll show you. Now you can go and enter on Google PC8500D instruction manuals. It'll take you to the Brother website, and they should have a file that you can download that will show you a color chart of all the designs that are built in. Pretty cool, right? So there's a lot of designs here. Now if I go back and I enter this, they also have frames from when you're doing patches. And then this is nice. This is that when they first came out with the big lettering with the floral on it for your 5x7 hoop. I'm just going to do N for my last name. And then I'm going to do layout, and I'm going to do image. Now, because this was slower technology, it takes a while for it to generate, so don't think it's going to come up super fast. It's not like the modern machines. So that's the only drawback to buying older machines, is the technology is a little bit slow and it's a little older technology. See how it's bringing it up little by little? So that is what's going to sew out. And then if I go to return, it breaks down all the different colors that you're going to use. Isn't that nice? Now, if for instance if a thread breaks, you go to help, And after you rethread the machine, you go back or you go forward within that color. If you do reverse search, it'll go back to either the beginning or forward. Let's do forward search. Okay, see, it took me to the next color. Let's do reverse. It took me back to the first color. If you accidentally hit home, this is where it's going to be a problem. If you accidentally hit home, well, let's see. When I was doing an embroidery design earlier, it was already sewing. When I hit home, it took me right to the beginning. Because I haven't been sewing, well, let's just do this. Forward, forward, forward. Okay, let's just say I accidentally hit home. Look, it took me right back to the beginning. So you're going to have to forward then where you were, what color you were on. Say I was on light lilac, and then you have to do the forward right here. Keep holding the forward, and you can hear the hoop moving to where you left off. That's the only thing. Whereas the modern machines, okay, if the power goes out, you turn the machine on, it'll ask you if you want to resume. It'll resume where the power went out or where you last left off. So that's the difference between the older machines and the new machines. So remember, back is a few stitches, forward is a few stitches after you break the thread. If you need to go back to the beginning of that color, then you would do reverse or forward. Okay? And that's what that is. Then we'll go back to look at cards. Oh, before the card, let's look at the built-in Disney designs. So this one has built-in Disney designs. Isn't that nice? There you go. Nice built-in Disney designs. And some lettering, captions. I think this is wonderful. I absolutely think this is just wonderful. Back to the beginning. All right, now, I brought in a card. Let's look at a card. And these are the designs that I transferred onto my card. Now remember, when you load your card up with designs, and say you forgot to put a design, well, when you put that card back in the PED box and you want to add a design, you can't. It's going to erase everything on that card and just write that design, so you have to write everything at the same time. That's the only drawback to it. Now, I did a video earlier explaining how to use the PED basic box, so watch my previous video on that. Okay, so today we're going to embroider this design, and this is an Arabian tent, a desert tent that I downloaded. Okay, and I believe this came from a CD I had a long time ago I bought. So when you ask someone like me, where do I get my designs? Ooh, you're asking me some history, because I've been collecting designs for 20 some years. I have them on CD, I have them on card, I download some from the internet all these years. But whenever I want something now recently, I just go to Google and I enter Google what I want, and then it'll bring me up designs. Like if I want, say I wanted an Arabian desert tent. And I enter that in Google and I enter Arabian desert tent embroidery design PES, because PES is the language that Brother and Baby Lock speaks. That's P like Peter, E like Edward, S like Sam. That's the language that these machines speak. The Brother and Baby Lock machines speak PES. And then when Google comes up, I look and I see all the different links to different embroidery sites, and then I can go to images, and if I click images, it'll show me images of those type of designs. If I click that image, it'll take me, it can take me to that link of that website where that embroidery design is. So it's a little bit of researching, and once you know how to research, you'll find everything on your own within seconds compared to asking someone on the internet, where do they get that design? So by the time you ask them and by the time they get back to you, you could have pulled it up in a fraction of the time. All right? So don't be afraid of Google. And don't be afraid to open up your instruction manuals and read how to use your machines either. I see a lot of that on the groups. Don't be afraid, guys. I don't know why you have a fear of opening up your instruction manuals, but they're there to help you. And if it didn't come with your manuals didn't come with your machine, you can still download them from Brother. Now, I looked at Baby Lock recently. Baby Lock's always changing their stuff on their website, and they took away a lot of their older machines. So it's hard to download a machine and its manual, even machines that are 10 years old. There was one I was trying to find on there, I couldn't. But if you look at the equivalent, that machine model equivalent to the baby lock model number, you'll be able to that baby lock model, you look at the conversion chart, which I'll link below this video, and I did tell you in my last video where it was. You look at the equivalent model of the brother, and then you can enter the brother model on Google to look for a manual, and then it'll take you to a link to brother website where you can download the manual. Okay? All right. Now, something I want to point out to you about this series of machines is they had a release button here where this slid up on the presser bar. Let me show you. For your foot. It just comes right off like that, snapping on the side. I don't know why that they didn't keep this, because I thought it was a great idea. Obviously, it maybe loosened up over time and wasn't sturdy enough, and that's why they went back to the screw on the side. But I thought it was pretty cool, and so, seems to be lasting okay for me here. All right, so now let's go. Let me get this thread out here that I used before. And the first color it wants is a lime green. So I'm going to use this lime green by Sulky here. This is from their Poly Deco line. Love this bright, intense green. I do love intense colors. And as I said earlier, now here's the other thing I want to show you. Some spools of thread, whether you're sewing or embroidery, may have a little slit on the side. So make sure you use a spool cap that's larger than the spool of thread. So when you put it on, it will lift above that little slit there. And some spools of thread have a slit on both sides, so rather than take a chance of that thread getting caught and pulling your needle and breaking and putting a burr on the throat plate, just use the larger spool cap. Now, I've seen people out there all these years that say, oh, I don't have to use a spool cap. I'm like, who told you that? Oh, the lady from Baby Log that does the embroidery, she's teaching. And I'm like, no. So one person wrote on one of my videos a long time ago, and she said, I was told not to use, and then I said, well, read your instruction manual. So she said she called Baby Log Sewing Machine Company and said, yes, we suggest using spool caps. So whoever was the educator that told her she didn't have to, they're not in the correct. So always do that, because like I said, you never know when that thread could get wrapped around that spindle, pull on the needle, break it, and you got burrs, and then you got to go to the repair shop. So better to be safe than sorry. Now to hoop this, I showed you in a previous video how I like to do my hooping. I like to float a lot. And what I like to use is, I like to use the Sticky Plus by Sulky, and then I use the Totally Stable on the back of the fabric, and then I stick it down onto the Totally Stable. And then I go ahead and I'm going to, this machine, this frame, has nail heads that you snap on. The more modern machines, you slide it in and you have a little lever you push down. This one, you just make sure it's snapped in. Now, the other thing I like to do, which I showed in one of my other videos, is I like to take another 2 pieces of tearaway stabilizer and float it underneath. So the terminology of floating pertains to top or bottom. Floating underneath is slipping it underneath, and floating on top is like when you're doing terry cloth towels and you float a piece of the clear stabilizer on to prevent the nap, to help hold the nap down when you're sewing on the terry cloth towels. Alright, so let me load this up and then we'll get it started. Alright, so now let me show you how this gets threaded. Now there's a little lever on the side here that you push down to bring the needle threader down. But let me just get a little closer here so you can see a couple things. Alright, right here above the needle is a little wire bar. You want to make sure this thread gets clipped behind that wire bar. I love this little wire bar. I like it much better than the flat bar that they're putting in today, because that flat bar has an issue sometimes, and it happened to me on 2 of my machines where the little wire underneath got messed up and was pulling out. Didn't realize, and it was shredding my thread, and I kept thinking it was my throat plate. And it wasn't. It was that bar. And one guy, he thought he played games with me. In fact, the one dealer no longer sells machines on any brand because they canceled his dealership because he kept ripping people off, and he was not a very nice man. But he didn't even know. He kept playing games, telling me, oh, I need to buy a plate, I need to do this and do that. And then I took it to a different dealer, and the different dealer looked at it and said, yeah, that's that bar up there above the needle. I'm like, how come the other guy didn't tell me that? And they just looked at me and go, they didn't say nothing because they don't like to badmouth each dealer. Well, then a while later, I heard that previous dealer who was ripping me off, he lost all accounts to be able to sell all brand machines. So there's just a little fabric store now. Anyway, I like this little wire bar much better. Now, what you do is you're going to, see if I can get out of the way here. You're going to take, on the left side, when you pull that little lever down, I'm going to put my foot down. All right, so there's a little wire, as you can see there, catch it under the wire, and then you push all the way down, and then I got a camera in front of me, guys, so bear with me. Okay, so then you take this and you feel it. You take the thread and you feel it till it gets hooked in there. You see that, how I did that? It gets hooked in there. And while you're lightly holding it, release that lever and it'll pull that thread out through the back. Isn't that nice? And now you're threaded. Very easy. Now, I've had students in my workshops that are very rough with everything. They'll slam the presser foot down, they'll jam the thread, they're just rough. And I tell them, you're not going to be destructive in this class. If you have patience issues, and that's another thing I learned, I have a couple sewing groups and I ask questions. There's some quizzes that the ladies have to answer, or the gentlemen have to answer, whoever. But I'm saying ladies because the majority of the people that never get the answer right are ladies. And it says, one of the questions is, what does sewing teach you? And it says the answer is in the group rules. Scroll down below the questions and read the group rules to find the answer. Well, every one of these ladies answers patience, and patience is not the answer found in the group rules. So, I don't know, you girls have a problem with the word patience because you all don't have any patience according to what you're telling me. Now, don't shoot the messenger, girls. I'm referring to you, what I learned in this industry and what I see being an administrator on these Facebook groups. I don't know why you women have so much problem with patience, but that's not the correct answer when you join my Facebook groups. You have to read the rules to find the answer. And when you find the answer, you're going to say, oh, okay? So patience does teach you patience as far as being calm and not being abusive. But there are other benefits of sewing that sewing teaches you. So I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're going to be abusive with your machine, you're going to ruin it. You're going to get frustrated, you're going to throw it out the door. But if you take your time and you read your instruction manual, and don't read it just once, read it over and over and over, because I guarantee you, you'll find something that you didn't see the first time. I've been sewing since, oh God, the early 90s, and every time I pull my instruction manual, I always find something that I didn't see before. Yeah, seriously, 25, 30 years later, you still find things you missed, okay? All right, so let me thread this for you one more time, because some of you don't know how to rewind the video, so I will do it again for you. See that? How easy was that? And that's on this 1999 year made machine, okay? Now what I like to do is take a couple stitches, stop, lift my foot, go under there, and cut that long thread tail. Now this machine will not cut jump threads, and I talked about that in my last video with these older machines. They don't cut jump threads. Now, what is a jump thread? A jump thread is when you're sewing and then it stops here and drags thread down to another area over here to sew, and you've got that long spider web. It does not cut those spider webs automatically like the modern machines do, but that's the price you pay for older technology in this machine. It does, however, cut the thread at the end of a color cycle, okay? Oh, and I want to show you something else. Let me raise the needle. Let me raise the foot. I'm going to try to sew, and even in the sewing mode, if you forget to put the foot down. This is what it's going to do. Now, if you press your foot on the foot pedal when you're sewing, it will do this. If you cannot keep the foot pedal plugged in when you're doing embroidery. So remember that. You have to unplug the foot pedal. But now I got my presser foot up. I forgot to put it down. I hit the go button. Uh-oh. Let me do it again. It's beeping at me. Why is it beeping at me? Because it tells you on the screen, lower presser foot lever. So you're going to lower the presser foot lever. It reminds you to do that. On mechanical machines, if you forget to lower the foot and you try to sew, well, the fabric, first of all, isn't going to move, but then you can get a wad of thread up underneath. And another thing to remember when you're threading these machines, always thread with the presser foot up when you're threading. If you do not thread with the presser foot up, the thread will not get engaged properly within the tension discs, and when you go to sew, all that top thread is going to be pulled to the bottom and you're going to have thread nesting. Now your instruction manual even tells you, make sure your presser foot is in the up position. And I see so many people on the sewing groups that have a wad of thread underneath that bird's nesting. They're questioning why, because they didn't read their instruction manual. They didn't read where it says make sure you thread with the presser foot up. Okay, those are newbies. Those are newbies on new machines and everything, and they're not reading. So listen people, if you want to set good examples for your children to follow in life, you have to set them yourself. So don't be afraid to pull that manual out and read. Let your kids see you reading. I know they're pulling books out of libraries across the country, but your instruction manual for a sewing machine is not one of them. You can still read that. Okay, here we go. Look how beautiful that Poly Deco thread by Sulky is. Look at that. It's just so vibrant. I love it. I'm going to shut the side light off here, so there we go. Look at that. Love that Poly Deco neon thread. Now I'm going to pause this video so I don't have to bore you by watching all of this, and I'll come back to when I've got the metallic thread loaded. Look at that beautiful intense color. Isn't that gorgeous? Man, I just, little things make you happy. All right, I've got the silver thread on here, okay? Now, let me show you how I set it up. So, as I said many, many times in my videos, you have to feed the metallic thread from the side like toilet paper. This is a little dish I got from a Janome dealer, and it sits on the spindle. You have a spindle here that connects on top of your bobbin winder. You can go visit your local Janome dealer, show them this video, tell them you want this, and they will order one for you. And then you set that on there and you thread your machine like normal, and you will have flawless metallic thread sewing. Now, two types of needles you can use for embroidery, especially for metallic thread. Now, I usually use a top stitch needle size 14 or 16. If your design is a little dense, you might have to use a 16. Right now, I'm using a Janome red tip needle. Now, as you can see, Janome doesn't tell you what kind of needle it is like this brand does. This brand, Class A, tells you it's a top stitch. Janome doesn't tell you, it just tells you it's a red tip. Well, what is a red tip? Well, if you go to the Janome website and enter red tip needle in their search line, it'll come up with a blog post and tell you that the red tip needle is a combination of a basic universal needle for regular sewing, and it's a large eye needle for denser embroidery designs. So the red tip would be for metallic threads, because it also said it's also for metallic thread, and for denser embroidery designs. I have been using the red tip needle lately for several of my metallic thread sewing on several different brands of machines. And guys, I'm having great results, really great results. So I also use Schmetz needles in a top stitch, size 14 or 16. So remember, you have to use the needles that have a longer eye to accommodate the metallic thread. something I wanted to point out to you that I talked about in my last video. This model machine from the series that these machines were made back then, it took a class 66 bobbin. Now, the two different types of bobbins that the brother machines had made since the early 2000s, or 1999, 1996. Class 66 was the bobbin that went into these types of machines. Then later on, brother came out with the class 15J, which is the standard size bobbin now in all modern computer, sewing, and embroidery machines. So don't try to stuff a class 15 into a class 66 bobbin case, because it's not going to work for you. And also, do not try to stuff a class 66 Singer bobbin that has the dome shape curve on top and bottom into these machines, because it will not work for you. It will jam and cause you problems, and you'll probably end up in the repair shop. So class 66, which is this bobbin here, is what this machine takes. And you can see how much, let me bring this closer here. You can see how much taller the class 15 for the modern machines is, and how much shorter the class 66 is. Now, if you go buy pre-wounds, you visit the site or the dealer that you're going to buy from, and you enter class 66 brother bobbins, and they'll come up and you choose from there. I also believe these might be under the type L. Don't quote me. You have to look that up yourself. I'm going to give you some research information. I'm going to give you some homework. Be sure to make sure this is a type L for pre-wound bobbins. Find, if you do not have a local brother or baby lock dealer near you, find a dealer online, and you can call them and say, hey, I need class 66 clear bobbins for my model machine. And they'll be happy to place an order for you so you can have them. Okay? Alright, something I want to point out to you. This machine has a bobbin sensor. It tells you when you're almost out of thread. This is how much is left on this bobbin. Now, by today's standards, that's not calculated properly, because today's modern sewing machines will only leave you maybe about 6 inches or 8 inches of thread left when the warning goes off. So you can have a choice and just try to, after you get to know your machine, you'll know how much more you can sew before you change the bobbin after the bobbin winder is alerted. I'm sorry, not the bobbin winder, but the remaining bobbin thread warning is alerted. For me, I'm just going to change it. I'm just going to put a new spool in. Because I have a whole lot more to embroider. And there really isn't that much waste. So you could save it for a smaller project that's not going to take much, or you can I'm trying to talk and got the camera in front of me here, trying to snap this in. There we go. You can just use it on a smaller project, or you can just unwind it and use it for regular sewing, or to wind more bobbin thread for embroidery. So you see how beautiful white light this is? It didn't come that way. The technology in this machine had these old-fashioned halogen bulbs. See, that's an old halogen bulb here. Let me turn my other light on up here. There we go. This is an old halogen bulb. They get really hot and they're yellow. Yellow light is horrible. Absolutely horrible for color matching. Okay, so what I did was I replaced the bulb with this new LED bulb. And see, it has the same base. It has the same base to it. Now, you're all going to ask me where I got it. Well, what I did was I went to eBay and I entered Brother Pacesetter PC8500D LED replacement bulb. And all these listings came up with bulbs available. And I chose a vendor with a listing. And this one, it was a, let me back this camera up. What I chose was this, it says, this is all it came, package. But two came into a package. Now, I have replaced many of my machine bulbs with the new LED bulbs. And these were the older ones right here. The LED bulbs, this is already old already. This style here is already old. And this is the new style right here. This one's the new style right here. This is the old style. This new style is so much brighter, as you can see. I'm going to turn my light above here off. And I'm going to turn the light in the back off. Look how bright that is. You see? Isn't that great? So if you're going to get one of these older machines, make sure you replace the bulb with the new LED bulb. Okay, and how do we do that again? Well, we go to eBay and you enter your brand and model number machine, and then you write LED replacement light bulb, and it'll come up and you choose. And when you get to the listing, you scroll all the way down and make sure it tells you your brand machine that it would work for, and that's it. So this concludes this little short demo of embroidery on this machine. In my next video, I will do some sewing on it and show you the sewing features and the beautiful stitches it makes it sewing. In the meantime, if you're looking at buying one of these machines, make sure you check the quality of it. Make sure to see how well it's cared for. And if you're buying local, make sure you can test it out. If you're going to buy online, make sure there's a money-back guarantee, or that the guarantee is that it will work upon arrival. Okay, and you always have to have these machines serviced because they're so old. So it's up to you where you want to purchase these machines, but make sure you cover your butt. There are some deceitful sellers out there that will tell you things, and I bought a couple machines in the past, and when they were shipped to me, the people that shipped them and the people that sold and shipped them were not professionals. They didn't know how to box a machine for shipping, and a couple of the machines were cracked. And I wrote them and showed them pictures. I said, look at the way this is shipped. There is no cushion. It's not wrapped properly. So we had negotiated, and sadly, they lost because they sent me a machine and it arrived broken. I wasn't going to pay for a broken machine. So if you're watching this video and you're a seller, you make sure you wrap that sucker up good if you're selling it to ship it. Because the buyer, if you're buying on eBay or you're buying through PayPal, you're protected. And that's how I like to go, is through eBay and through PayPal, because I'm protected. And take photos, buyers, when they come in the mail, take a photo of the box, how it arrived, open the box and take a box and picture inside what it looks like. Okay? Make sure that puppy is wrapped really good in bubble wrap all over. Make sure there's cushion everywhere. And one thing that a lot of sellers don't do, but this seller on this machine, the machine prior to this machine that I got from the previous video, that Designio machine, they were professional packers. They packed up good. But this machine, they put this plastic box in there with all the accessories, and they didn't tape it or wrap it. And when I opened up and took the machine out, even though the machine was pretty much packed pretty good, the accessories were all over the bottom of the box. So it's your choice where you want to buy these machines, but just be very diligent. And there's a lot of local places you can purchase on Marketplace, on Facebook, for example, and you can go test drive the machines. And yeah, and remember, sellers are not getting top dollar for these machines because there's so much competition out there, so many of these used machines, and so many of the grandmas who used to own these that, you know, they hardly use them, so they're in wonderful shape. And the grandkids or the children are auctioning off or selling grandma's estate, and newbies, especially newbies, are going to get great deals on these machines. That's all I have to say for this video. I hope I helped you a bit, helped you understand a little bit more. And remember, always read your instruction manuals, watch plenty of videos like this video, and always thread your machine with your presser foot up. Because anyone in the sewing groups who's watching this video, the next time someone posts a picture and they've got all this bunch of thread on the bottom, you know they didn't thread it properly and they didn't read their instruction manual. Okay guys, take care. Look for my next video. Please like and subscribe so I can grow this channel, and so you'll get notified. Make sure you click notifications so every time I come out with a new video, you'll be able to get alerted and you'll be able to watch and keep up with me. All right, take care. Bye.